not the same without the drums hitting
I'm Daniel.
and the music going.
Who are you?
I'm Wilbur, but it's just not the same vibe.
I can restart it.
Nah. Welcome back to the Shack. We are here broadcasting you the truth, putting it out on the airwaves for your it's just a little ear candy. This is all just sweet, sweet ear candy that your heart desires. That's what we're here doing. What are we talking about today?
You go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, today we're going to give you guys something a little special.
Okay.
This is just something we popped up on our radar recently. So
Not your radar.
on my radar recently, I thought was just interesting. There's this little place in the UK called the Shell Grotto of Margate.
Fanciest wine cellar in all of Europe.
Blah. So this is if you want to Google it to see the photos, because you're gonna probably want to after we talk about it. But this is was discovered in the 1830s, thereabouts, sometime. It was actually it's an underground buried structure that someone had fallen into, but it's called the Shell Grotto for the reason being the whole inside of this. It's almost I want to describe it. It's almost like a little building, or I see it as like a little temple looking like shaped thing. Imagine like it's just a one big chambered room, and then it has like a, what would you say, almost like a hallway kind of feature.
It's not. So it's a. Okay, so there's like an inner circle,
Okay.
and there's 3 pillar walls
around
it, and then there's another circle, and then there's a hallway to go back up.
Okay. And this is, like I said, this is all subterranean, buried.
So it's 1 circle, 2 circles, hallway.
Either way, you might just want to Google this one. Shell.
No, it's very it's a gorgeous. It's
Yes.
a gorgeous place.
You got to see this because it is. That's just amazing. The first thing that amazed me was just immediately seeing it. I'm like, whoa! Like this is a work of art. Like this is really, really, really well done. But why it's called the Shell Grotto is like every square inch on the inside of this whole building is covered with seashells and placed in patterns that are just
seashells.
Okay. Not just seashells.
Shells.
Just shells in general.
There's some freshwater mollusk in there.
Oh, it's that. I guess you're right. That doesn't constitute as a seashell, but Sally don't sell them though.
Not, at least not by the seashore. She goes down to the river.
Well, no, Sally sells seashells.
Yeah, she sells these by the river because that's where they're from.
So that's a different poem in all in itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different tongue twister that Sally. Actually, it's
Sally sells river shells by the river.
gorge. I don't know. But either way, like I said, it's covered, I think, by 4.6 million seashells adhered with a primitive cement covering a surface area of 190 square meters.
You have cement?
That's what this article says. It
so
says
the
a
mental
primitive.
floss. So I have this little article. I'll read it real quick because
Yeah.
it's a short little article, just kind of basic description. The Margaret, is it Margaret or Margate?
I'd say Margate.
Margate Shell Grotto is one of Kent, England's greatest cultural treasures. Like Wilbur said, it's covered by 4.6 million seashells line the walls of the subterranean passage in an ornate mosaic pattern. But just as interesting is the craftsmanship displayed and the mystery behind it. The grotto was discovered accidentally in the 19th century. And to this day, no one knows who built it or why, according to the most accurate accounts. Farmer James Newlove and his son Joshua were digging a duck pond in 1833 when they struck upon the entrance to this underground cavern. A closer look revealed that they weren't the first people to enter this space, as someone had gathered millions and millions of seashells from cockles, whelks, oysters, mussels, and other mollusks and glued them to the wall with a primitive glue-like substance. The shells were adorned these winding tunnels in intricate, colorful patterns. Some abstract, while others more laid out in shapes of animals, like birds and reptiles. The space covered is nearly 2,000 square feet, with an altar room at one end of the serpentine passageway, and the underground rotata at the other end. After a few years stumbling upon the grotto, James opened up to the public, and the walls were radiocarbonated according to the grotto's website. We have been advised that experts in the field would need to provide a number of samples to marginate against the dating of Victoria or later repair, and the cost would be extremely high. So the lack of radiocarbon dating and the fact that they are land above them has never been a part of a large estate makes it the origins of the site a mystery. So this is kind of like right in the smack dab of a bunch of like big estates. So there's like a lot of weird. England's land stuff is really weird.
If you look on the map where this is located, it's about in the part on England where England comes the closest to touching France. So it's in that southeastern part of the island there. But if you look at it, it's literally right in the middle of town. Like it is in the middle of a city there.
So there's a lot of mysteries about this is built, but analysis of the mortar or glue beneath the shells is even more puzzling. Do you want to know why?
Why?
The glue is fish-based.
They
made fish glue.
That's interesting. Now I've heard of stories of like ancient cultures too.
You can use all kinds of stuff for glue.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously, well now fish. That's odd. But I'm trying to think the other stuff they used. I know they used hemp back in the day too, and they found like a glue from that. They made glue from shells even. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff, like a lot of different amalgamation things that used as mortar, basically.
Mm-hmm. So some people think the masterpiece was built by ancient civilizations. The design has been described as looking vaguely Egyptian or Roman or Indian, or here's one I don't know, Phoenician. That's how you spell Phoenician?
Pho.
Phoenician.
Yeah, that's Phoenician.
Oh my gosh. Other credit groups of this masterpiece is the Templars. One possible example is that the grotto is a project of an erotic Victorian aristocrat.
Ooh.
Foolishly decorating structures that serve no particular purpose. While it's a fashionable way to flaunt wealth during the Regency and Victorian era, but the question is why people would build something so elaborate beneath empty pastoral lands remains unanswered. The Margate Grotto welcomes visitors to this day. It cost £4 to go in for a kid and £6 for an adult. You can tour the tunnels and the natural art pieces. There's also the largest shell art museum is on top of the grotto because people started sending their own shell art, including like I seen a giant shell dinosaur, a shell dragon, like shell Mona Lisa.
What do you mean shell?
Like making all those things out of shells.
Oh, okay.
So it has the largest shell art museum.
Makes a lot more sense. I thought you were saying like dinosaur shells. I'm like, no, wait a minute. No,
Yes.
I've heard a lot. You talk about dinosaurs a lot. I never heard one with a shell.
Yes, it was a dinosaur shell. I guess ankylosaurs kinda, you could almost call that a shell.
Well, one of them shows
they had
up.
such heavy plated osteoderms. No, so there's a couple biologists that have thrown their ring in the hat. With dating of these shells and the way these shells are decomposing. Because keep in mind, everybody at home, these are organic compounds. Everything from the glue to the shells themselves have breakdown rates. The shells have been, the shells are believed to be younger than 2,000 years.
Okay.
Believed
to be though.
Yeah. By biological estimates of how the shells are deteriorating themselves, they are probably no older at max than 2,000 years. More likely around the 1,000-year mark. Now, the species of shells are mostly abundant around the coast. Like literally 98% of the shells are found like 2 miles away on the coastline. There are a few specimens from South America, from the Caribbean, and from North America, which is odd.
Yeah, that's
depending on the time scale.
Right, because that either means somehow either those shells floated across the ocean and they washed up there and they found them. We went there and collected them and brought them back, or someone from over there came this way. We met and traded somehow.
You're also forgetting the one we talked about beforehand, that these species of mollusk were native to the area and to the Americas, and then locally went extinct.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's
England
also
has a big history of wiping out every species of animal they've ever had.
I wonder why.
Just
wonder how.
Way too many people and they ate everything.
Yeah.
Literally, like it's just crazy. So there's a lot of biological mysteries with this one too.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's it so far. We'll get to the conspiracy side of it. But a lot of people believe that this was original, like the shells were not with the original design.
There's what the overall view looks like.
Yeah, so this big circle, I guess there's like the box on the one end. It's like a snake with a big circle in the middle and a square head.
Yeah, with leading up the stairs. Yeah, let me save this photo so we can possibly put it on the DW Facebook page. If you haven't joined that group, why don't you join in the shack on the Facebook page and have some fun with us?
Post on there in 2 months.
Let's share some memes, guys. But anyways, what were we saying? So with it's kind of odd that they haven't officially done any radiocarbon dating.
So it's because it's privately owned,
Which is still you would think that person would want to know, unless of course they didn't actually want to know.
I read it. They tried. The museum tried to get it radiocarbon dated, but it was going to be way too expensive.
Way too expensive. I mean, if you privately own this, you got enough money to pay for that.
No,
Come
you
on.
do not.
Come on.
It costs £4, which is like $4 to go in.
Okay.
This is like Ohio Caverns level.
Okay. But
And
okay,
Ohio Caverns charges $25 a person,
somebody with money that would want to know.
and they are talking about a number of samples.
Yeah. No,
So
you need multiple
that's-
samples from the
So that's
thing.
pulling shells off the wall,
There's 4.6 million.
but it is still
Gajillion.
destroying the art.
Oh, I know, but this thing it's got random twists and turns. I'm sure they wouldn't miss a shell here or there.
No.
I'm sure people have already swiped some from it anyways.
I don't think it's just about destroying the art, like actually destroying the art to get a date. Does the date matter to these people very much? Probably not.
See, that's the most important part to me.
To
anyways.
you don't own
Yeah.
this thing as a tourist attraction.
I know, but that's like the biggest mystery of it all. And
That's the point. It's one you want to keep it as a mystery. Why would you pay $20,000 to ruin the mystery?
because I think that opens up even more possibilities.
No, to you, not to them.
I think to everybody.
Because if it comes out that this is only from the 1600s, the shells,
That'd be pretty amazing, I would think.
no,
Why not?
because it's not this Knights Templar thing anymore. It's not like all of that.
Well, right. It takes that aspect, but it actually
You're ruining your business model, and then you're spending $20,000 to $30,000 to ruin your own business.
See, I think if you do that, then you're not a good business owner, because if you actually have answers that lead, then you got endless possibilities of what it could
the
be.
mystery gets away. I think you're losing a lot of that.
I don't think so.
No,
I think the mystery gets bigger if you find the
plus
date.
it's just so expensive.
See, these are excuses. You sound like the shills that like.
I'm talking. This is just a guy
just
that
can't
owns
do-
this.
Right. Well, let's figure out who owns it, because he's probably a shill too. He probably owns Disney, to some degree, or a share of it.
That episode may never come out.
That episode better come out. Yeah, I don't know. Like, this is just a very weird structure. It's weird to me that they didn't, that they just haven't, that somebody hasn't put forward an effort to carbon date. I mean, this thing has been known for 150 years now.
And it's been privately owned the whole time.
Right. I just think somebody with any care, or that would actually, any curiosity about our past, with any money, or, would go through the effort of just, okay, I'll pay to have this mystery figured out. Like, anyway, I don't know. I just feel like that would be a kind of an important thing. But I think that's also the same reason why it hasn't officially been carbon dated or been dated to a certain date, because it may open up a lot of problems that would throw off the narrative of, when this was not only when this was created, but as to why. It would put in perspective of why it was created. If you had a certain date to go back to, you can go back to that timeline and figure out what was going on at this time, and maybe that would give you an answer to why this was created. Or if it just pushes back like our timeline or our narrative of what we've been taught to believe of how long humans have been inhabiting areas, or been smart enough, or the ability to create things like this, because the structure itself is all subterranean. Now, was this built while the land was already that high? Was it
I'm finding out why. I'm looking up carbon dating prices. And I'm
still?
finding out why shells suck.
If we can devote billions and trillions of dollars a
That's
year,
public
to-
people. This
to
is a
doing
private
war.
person.
Yeah, I know.
That's
know,
what you're
I know.
losing. That this is not some big corporation. This is a guy that owns it in the back of his field and put a
For
little...
150 years, he's owned this?
His family has. It's the same family.
So his family has no curiosity or no questions.
They can't afford it.
See, I just sounds like you're making excuses.
No,
for his
it
family.
sounds like you're trying to blame some poor farmer for something that he can't control. And he tried to do it.
Yeah,
The first carbon testing he did came back inconclusive, and they said they would need 17 samples for another one.
Okay. 17 times. How much does a sample cost?
$5,000.
17 times 5. I'm sure listeners can do that math super fast, but I'm going to do it. So 17 times 5,000 is $85,000. Now, to any millionaire out there, just millionaire.
He's not a millionaire.
I know he's not, but any millionaire out there, if this farmer really wanted this, if he tried and didn't work.
What if he just loves the art and doesn't care about how old it is?
But obviously he does if he tried it once. And so if that's the case, I'm sure he's been suppressed. I'm sure they're not allowing this to be carbonated. I'm sure they're not, they being like higher powers, are making sure this does not get carbonated. This does not even have a date associated with it. Because if it did, it would throw off the narrative of the human timeline and what we've been taught ever since Rockefeller took over our public education system after World War II.
Okay, first off, I don't think this is that old.
World War II?
No, hard enough to set back the time scale of humans.
It may, and just we don't even know that. That's the thing. We don't know the time scale of humans. We don't know. We don't even know anything about our history past 150 years, besides just what we're led to, what we're told to believe, what the books say. Even if all the books have been rewritten, it doesn't mean they're true. You have to be there to see it and experience it. And if this just puts you back in a moment of time where it's just different than what we were taught, then, it just raises questions that people don't want answered or people don't want raised, people being people in power. But I'm sure, like, to the everyday human being, the common man, the son of a plumber, they're looking for answers, about anyone that has any curiosity about our past. They want answers. And this is a little puzzle piece that can...
They got a cool gift shop.
I'm sure they do. I mean, the Shells thing sounds amazing.
They have job openings.
Ooh, maybe I might get a clone over there to see if they'll hire me.
Clone of who?
One of our friends. They're cloning themselves actively. Or being cloned. I don't know if it's against their... I honestly think it's against his own...
It's only 4 pounds for an adult.
I don't even know if the friend I'm friends with is a clone or not. I mean, he might be a real version of him, but I don't know, because I guess I've only ever known him and his clones since he's been cloned, so...
Just you spouting nonsense.
Is what?
Just all I can hear is you just spouting... You rambling about nothing.
But that sounds like someone with their head in the sand would say.
No, I mean just like about that last little thing you just said.
What, clones?
Yeah, it just was like you
different show.
3 minutes rambling about nothing.
Let me.
I'm trying to find how many visitors it has a year is what I'm looking up.
Gotcha. So you might be able to do the math. I bet you they'd probably make more than $85,000 a year. So if he wants to actually do this, he can devote a year.
This is his only source of income, so you got to remember that too.
Yeah, loans too. There's ways to be done, to have this done.
You don't want to take out any loans.
Huh? I would for a cause.
I'll remember that.
But I'll just give you a little more general public knowledge of, I don't know, this little grotto that's called. Like you said, it was discovered sometime between 1835 and 1838, somewhere in that time frame. But we don't know 100% for sure. It features a 70-foot long passageway that concludes at a 15 by 20-foot chamber known as the altar. It's known for its intensely intricate geometric mosaics, which are all made by the Shells. And like I said earlier, crafted from 4.6 million seashells, adhered with primitive cement. That's what this article says. Cement glue, at the same time, there's no difference. It's the same thing. The cement was used as a glue, or it's a glue that it resembles cement. It's one or the other. Potato. But the patterns of the grotto make spectacular displays at any point, but they reach their zenith of complexity within the altar, which features renditions of suns, stars, and other astronomical bodies. There's also an area called the dome, a shaft that rises to the surface, featuring more complex cascades of arranged shells, and allows a glimpse of celestial daylight to illuminate the area.
So then the opening.
Yes.
So there's actually extremely good airflow through this.
So it was built with a purpose, like it was built for a purpose.
Yeah. So root cellars of these ancient root cellars and stuff like that did have to have extremely well airflow, because what you're doing with the root cellar for a lot of the time is keeping like tubers and stuff like that in stasis.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have food and you're keeping meat cool and dry and stuff like that. So this thing did have extremely good airflow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that they say it could have been. And then whoever had the shells discovered it and then decorated it for their own little private space. And then...
So I actually like that idea. Let's explore that a little bit. So if someone just discovered it...
Yeah, so there's most people believe this was done in the 15th or 16th century. The shell part.
Right, that's the decorations.
The shell part, yeah. And that would make sense for a lot of the shells that show up coming from foreign lands and stuff like that with the trade routes of the time.
Maybe we should say this too, just so people aren't confused. It was carved out of the chalk bedrock, basically, is what it says.
Yeah,
and then decorated with shells. It wasn't built by shells.
Right. It's the shells are just pasted to the wall.
Correct. There we go. So just
the shells are just decorated onto the wall.
Right.
And most people believe that have looked into this heavily that the shells are done much, much, much later after the hole's original construction.
Right.
And it's not a very big hole. Like, have you seen pictures of the people in it and stuff like that?
Right. Yeah. It's just
it's like a hallway.
Yeah.
And then the room is like a 20 by 10 room at the end, and then the circle is like 10-foot diameter.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing about this it's not a megalithic thing.
Right. It's not not insignificantly small, but like it took quite an effort to have this made.
I'm a real big believer this was a root cellar originally, a root cellar or a wine cellar. You know why they had so much wine at the time?
Because the water was not drinkable, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then so almost everybody, even kids, were drinking alcohol for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
And this is in what time frame?
If this was around 1,000 years old,
Gotcha.
Most people believe that its construction matches a lot of wine cellars and root cellars. Just because, and then what they think is, so why we don't know 100% if it was a wine cellar, for example, is all the holes in the wall where the wine bottles or the food would be stored are covered up by shells.
Oh, so you're saying that they are there and you just can't see them? Or
if they could be. They could be.
That's what
and
you're
you
saying.
can't see them because
shells.
whoever did this was like, let's say it was an aristocrat in the 1600s.
Right.
And they're just like, this is my art project. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I eat at my time. Especially that's why rich people during this time got weird in Europe. Because they had all this time.
Money and time.
Yeah. And all this money.
Yeah.
So this could be somebody's art project, and they just spent a couple years doing this.
And that's kind of what I imagine it is. I mean, I think that's what I think it is. I think it was a rediscovered space or building that someone had stumbled upon or found or uncovered, and either that or they had it built, excavated and built themselves. I don't know either way, but I do think it was just somebody that probably had a lot of money, or either had a lot of money or a lot of time.
I think at that point in history, it's both.
Could be. I mean,
to have a lot of time on your hands, you need a lot of money to take care of everything else.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And what my speculate is either he was sending out parties to collect all these shells and just, he's known as, maybe back in his day, the shell guy.
Bring him a bag of shells.
Yep. If you go collect shells, I'll pay you this much money. So he's probably paying people to go out and just get them shells, locally. And then maybe every now and then there's an import, someone, and everyone knows this is the shell guy. He'll pay you a lot more money for this. Because like we said, some of the shells are from the Caribbean. So
that would make sense for the 1600s with trade routes and stuff like that.
Right. So I think, and it just looks like it's very well. It's so, like, if you haven't looked at it yet, it's so intricate.
Intricacy, most people believe, it's stenciled.
Interesting.
So the design was like painted on the wall,
and then he just filled it with shells. Oh, now that would be, and that would still, if that's
he or
the case,
she. I keep saying he. It could be a she. Is just as easily
saying he as in the human, like
as a human,
the royal
person.
he. I don't know. He is human being.
Yeah, a person. So,
and that if that's the case too, like, which I believe that's would make a lot more. It would actually make sense to be done that way.
Some of the conspiracy is saying like Knights Templar was using this as a human sacrifice thing or whatever. It just nothing about this screams to me anything secret society. And I get like some of the illustration of the wall, they're talking like sun, moon, stuff like that. There's not like, when you look at the walls, there's not a cohesive story. And they're done in several different art forms. It's not what you think about when you're thinking about a temple of worship or a temple of ritual. It's an art piece. It really screams everything about his art piece because this whole wall's done in this style. And then when I move on, I do it in this style. Like, it's me as a person enjoying the process of doing this.
Right.
So I'm doing it, playing with the styles. There's not a cohesive theme.
It just reminded me of something, and I'm going to Google it real quick. I think it's called the Doodle House. Have you ever heard of it? So the Doodle House was like this art project this guy had.
You just draw on the walls or whatever?
Basically, when he was a little kid, here, yep, it is the Doodle. So if you don't know this, you go to the Google the Doodle House. He had a vision when he was a kid that he wanted to, like, he just wanted to, either he did doodle on the walls and then he wanted to do that on a whole house, or he just had the idea of doing it. And I'll show you some pictures. But it was a house that was completely painted.
Oh, I think I've seen
head
this.
to toe in white on the inside and outside. The floors, the walls, everything is just painted white. And then he went through by hand
And did all that.
on each wall and like doodled just over the
So one
entire
wealthy,
wall.
weird guy.
Yeah, and with time and yes.
And in 200 years, if that house survives, it'll be like, what the hell's this?
What is this? Yes. So, I mean, I'm just saying human beings definitely have a history of doing
one
it.
person has done so much weird stuff.
Exactly.
Like, it's just been one person that's done, like, that's what they think, like, about maybe even the Nazca lines and stuff like that. It's just a small group of people
Doing weird stuff.
doing weird stuff because they got bored.
See,
There's a lot of stuff with culture. Like, when we stopped being so dependent on, like, having to find our own food every single day.
the thing with the Nazca
I'm
lines,
not saying the Nazca line.
No,
That's
I
a
know.
whole nother episode. But
it definitely is, but I just want to touch on this since you brought it up. But, like, I could believe that theory about it.
if you say you can only see it from space thing, I'll punch you.
Not from space. You can only see it from the sky. Like,
No.
you can only see it from up. Like,
Yeah, the mountain range. There's literally a lookout over the Nazca lines. There's literally a spot that everybody can go stand and look at the
see them
Nazca
all.
lines.
And that's, like, the thing is either they knew, like, okay, we can go to this mountain and then view it and look at our artwork, or they were viewing it. It's either that or they were viewing it from the sky. But there's no way anyone that created those is standing on the grounds over in those areas knows what shape they're even looking at, or you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, from the ground.
From the ground.
But you know you can draw it from the ground.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it was just them.
Like he was either meant to be observed from the mountains, or
I think it was meant
be
to see the mountains because, like, that's what I hate about ancient aliens is when they talk about the Nazca lines. They're like they can only be seen from space or from the
Not from,
sky.
yeah.
And it's
From
like
space is dumb.
because if we look at it, they only show the Nazca lines from one angle, and they turn around and there's this mountain range you can stand up top and see them really nice. There's even like a little spot you can stand and look at the Nazca lines.
I even think they might have had like primitive, like early, like hot air balloons, basically.
I just don't think they needed it. I think they just built it to build it, to build cool structures, and take their kids up and be like, look
with them. Even,
look what we did this summer.
Even with the Nazca lines and even just primitive cave paintings, you don't know like what their purpose was for. Other than, but other
humans do so much stuff out of boredom.
Exactly. Yeah, and I agree with that. And with this shell thing, the only thing that is conspiracy to me about it is when this whole structure, not the shells, not even the shells. I don't think the shell is really a conspiracy part. I think
it was 1600s. I'm a firm believer of shells. The shell part.
Just the shell part in itself was just decorated by one person that had a vision and was obsessed with completing their vision, and they just decorated this whole thing with shells that they had people collect for them, and it just became their thing. It was their thing, and maybe back in the day they charged people like, you know, a crust of bread to come look at my
I don't
cool
even
museum.
think they did that. Like the aristocrats at the time were just doing it for their aristocrat friends. Like
Right, to come over
when
and
you're on
see.
the property.
Yeah.
You have this fancy. Wait until you see my wine cellar.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like, check this out.
I've done this all by hand.
See, now, what I think the...
No way were I beating my servants to make them do this for me.
No, I would... Excuse me. I would imagine this whole piece, the shells and stuff was done by an artist, like one guy that just
or
did
even,
it himself.
Maybe even not like a family or a small
Or
group.
or it could even do a whole family
This
project.
is our little project.
Yeah, that just was for fun. And where the conspiracy comes in is, did they find this structure, this underground structure, or did they discover it? Or did they build it, or did they discover it? I'm under the belief in my head, I feel like the family that decorated it.
Oh, yeah, So I think they discovered it.
I think so too.
So here's the thing: is it was never like when it was discovered in 1800s.
Mhm.
It wasn't filled in with dirt.
No, it was open.
That's
yeah.
why I think it was the 1600s is why they were playing with it, because it didn't have time to actually fill in with dirt. If it's 1,000 years old, it'd probably be buried. So the thing with England is they constantly, and I mean constantly, find hidden structures because it's just city built on top of city built on top of city. So I think this was because they're talking about it was not on any land parcel or whatever. I think this was a farmer did this to store, like it's designed like a root cellar. It's built like a root cellar or a wine cellar. And the way it's angled downward and stuff like that, it gets cooler the further back you go.
Right.
And it has really like purposely built airflow, but it's still kind of a straight line, but it's not quite a straight line. So it's like somebody was digging it with hand tools and you're trying to go a straight line as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then you build your loop for your wine and then the square for all your tubers and stuff like that.
For all your tubers.
And I think that it was built 1,000 years ago, 1,200 years ago. Then it got built, like destroyed, built over, destroyed, built over, destroyed, built over. But it was it was the only thing underground, so it's protected to that lot. Then some aristocrat buys the property, and some aristocrat buys the property. It's there. The door may even still been evident, or the rock structure around the opening may have still been evident at the time.
Right at the time, yeah.
And then they build the shells, and then it gets buried through a land deal, or them going bankrupt, or whatever.
War.
Several thousand wars have happened in UK.
And I mean, what if, I don't know. I was going to say, what if, I don't know. Because it just raises a lot of questions. Because, okay, you're saying that, the guy that owns it now, the private owner, doesn't have enough money to carbon date it, or doesn't want to because
that's a hell of a chunk of money.
But imagine how much time and effort and money it would have cost to dig this out by hand,
None. If this is your family,
time, effort, and money.
There's no money.
That's time and money. That's money involved.
Keep in mind, this is like
if you're a lowly farmer.
Root cellars at the time, you had to build them.
Right.
You should see some of the root cellars in West Virginia that they dug through solid rock. We're talking about chalk rock here.
Yeah.
This ain't that hard comparatively. That people literally dug in West Virginia with hand tools their own personal coal mines.
Mm.
Some of those are hundreds of feet deep and have chambers in them that are like 20 feet wide.
But who built them?
A guy that wanted coal.
Who's that guy? Where's his documentation? I don't believe it. I think it was older.
I hate talking to you sometimes.
It was older. It was already there. They just said they built it.
But so this kind of stuff, that's what I think it's a root cellar.
There's stories of supposedly the Nephilim created deep mines, and they have even air tubes coming up that are still evident today.
Sure.
Some people have discovered some of those air pockets or air tunnels that were just bored.
So the only reason I think the big mystery that's still around the Shell Grotto and it not be all of it is because the walls are covered with shells with art. So you can't do anything.
Can't dig into it and see.
You can't see the tool marks. You can't see.
Yeah, that's the big thing too. Tool marks.
Because it's under all the shells.
Right. Yeah.
You can't
because it would be really curious. Because
if you can tell the difference between a pig iron pickaxe and older and newer technologies as far as digging. So if you could see say it's pig iron and it's a not the hoe but the metal one to chunk off rocks. It's normally on the back of the pickaxe.
Okay.
Whatever that is.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
You could tell that marking versus a newer piece or older piece, so we'd be able to date it and tell who was digging it.
It would even be cool, too, if it matched, like ancient sites, like in China, the Long U caves, or on places in Lebanon, where they carve out the stones, or even in Egypt, there's, the scoop marks looking, if they peeled away the shells and they had evidence of, being built like that, that would also raise a lot of questions, connect a lot of dots.
There are tons of similar-ish root cellars in UK.
That have this shape?
Yeah.
Okay.
That are just dug like this for airflow and stuff like it. The shells give it the mystery.
Oh, for sure.
Because
and
it's
the beauty.
You can't. Well, yeah, the beauty. It is gorgeous. Whoever did it spent hundreds of hours, hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of hours doing this.
You're right. Oh, it had to been. If it's done by hand by one person, thousands of hours.
So have you ever seen that liquor store in the UK that has the glass floor
No.
that has an ancient wine cellar on it?
No, I have not.
So it's literally over top this pit that was dug by hand.
Okay.
Goes down like 80 feet into the rock. And it has a spiral like staircase around it with all the walls are filled with wine bottles.
I have not seen this.
Yeah, it's a liquor store. You can still go. It's a liquor store you can go to in the UK.
And it has a glass ceiling pit below you?
A glass floor. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You
Ceiling
walk
once you're in the pit.
and they don't do tours anymore because the boards are falling off for the stairway. But it was all dug by hand by an old wine merchant
Dang.
and his and his family / slaves.
Right, yeah.
So the stuff like this exists in the UK everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Even more grandiose because this is like 80 foot down and it's like 20 foot wide.
Mm.
This is a freaking big hole.
Yeah.
And then once they got to the rock layer, they started putting these holes in to keep all the wine cool and
What a
stored.
good idea. You want to dig a root cellar, wine cellar?
I have a root cellar.
Oh, dang. Why aren't we using it?
It's
how deep
full
is
of
it?
garbage.
How deep is it?
It's not deep. It's just cool. So
Let's go in there and dig
why
deeper.
they dig these things is to keep certain things at certain temperatures. Because once you
Right.
get down deep enough, it's all constant temperature.
Which I'm a big
Wine is worth it.
Yeah.
Because it's such a valuable resource.
That's how I think all houses should be built, moving
They used
forward.
to be.
You need to bury your house, halfway deep in the
The
earth.
problem with that is, and Europe had a lot of problems with because they did a lot of that, is the house rots.
Better material. Quit using that cheap wood. Get it made out of stone, clay, earth, and materials. Live in a dirt house, people. Thatch roofs.
It still breaks down.
Yeah, eventually over time.
That's what I'm saying is you're giving Earth the chance to get at those minerals and those resources faster.
Yeah.
To break them down quicker, like the mortar and stuff like that.
Brick.
Yeah.
Red brick.
And start breaking those apart and stuff. It's just clay. All red brick is just clay.
Yep.
So the Earth will reclaim it.
Not in your lifetime, though.
But when you start putting earth on it and keeping it warm from the inside, you're basically cultivating something. That's why most of the time they only buried two sides.
Right. So the other side was exposed to sunlight and stuff. And I also think I want to do this, is dig, just big trenches and then, about 8-10 feet deep and just run like field tile through it. Not the corrugated field tile, but the solid so no water can get in. And just run air through that and pump it right into your house. I don't know why people don't do that.
Dude, explain that again.
You dig a big, long trench in your yard or whatever. I don't care. You can wind it, snake it. Either way, bury a big pipe, corrugated tile, I forget how many inches, like 4 or 6 inch tile, whatever it is. Bury that in your yard, have it pop out the other end somewhere, pull air through it, and have it run underground, and then pump it right into your house, that air. I don't understand why people don't do that for just cool air.
I think they do.
Okay. Why ain't it done more often?
There's a commercial from Lima, Ohio.
Oh, I know the geothermal, but that's
down, but it's the same system for heating water.
Yeah, they do it with water, but they still use that to cool air, to heat and cool air. Like it's the same difference.
Yeah, so I think that's done.
They run water though, but not just straight air. And I don't know if it's because the water absorbs.
Water holds temperature a lot better. So
that's why. Yeah.
So if you cool it down, it's going to stay cooler longer in the house. Air changes temperature so fast, so you could be losing a lot of it before it even gets back. Because you also moving the particles warms them up.
Right. An experiment needs to be done.
So
I need a test trench.
I think they have this.
I need a test trench with a squirrel fan attached to the end. Let's build some hillbilly version.
It's going to take a lot of space. I think that's why they do it straight down. It's because it takes up less surface area.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure. They go straight. It's not an oil rig. That's
that
stupid
commercial.
It's not an oil rig. It's oh my gosh, yes.
So I think they already do that. Essentially, just slightly different, but probably more efficient because they are doing it.
You combo that with a buried house, and you'll never have to pay a heating bill again.
Yeah, but you will have to pay to redo your walls every 10 years because the earth is literally coming in and worms are in your bed.
Just do what the ancients did. Constantly just build another wall.
Accuse fire salamanders of burning your house down?
Ancients, not.
That was 2,000 years ago.
It's not the ancients, though. The ancient structures are still standing.
What?
And still buried.
What?
Ancient structures? Ancient megaliths? Underground city of Darren.
But that's all the houses are gone. It's just the stone stuff, the floors.
Still there.
It's just the floors.
So build it by stone. Ancient temples, all throughout India, Egypt, obviously, South America, some.
All of those are less than 1,000 years old.
That's not true. That is not true. And you can't even. You can't even prove that. And two, you don't even believe
You can't
that.
even prove it.
I absolutely can. Absolutely can. I mean, they show.
How are you going to prove it?
Okay, Sphinx has water erosion marks. That was only done by.
Still argued about today.
For a reason. It's not by wind. They can guarantee you that. It's
You can't guarantee me that.
yeah, I can, because I can show you wind erosion patterns and water erosion patterns, and it matches water erosion patterns to a
Where's
T.
your degree?
I don't need a degree.
Yes, you do.
Oh, you're doing that peer-reviewed paywall, like a truth paywall is basically what you're doing. You can't.
You are just looking at pictures on the internet and just picking ones you like.
Where's your degree and where's your peer-reviewed article that was published and reviewed by 80 scientists that are paid by big shills?
Saying that's less than 1,000 years old by the University of Phoenix.
Where is it?
Let me pull it up on the computer.
Right. Yeah, I know you got nothing.
You don't got nothing either.
Even those peer-reviewed papers, are skewed. Money pays. Money gets your stuff reviewed. And if the narrative gets your stuff approved and reviewed, if it doesn't fall under the narrative or it's not, you're not giving somebody a bunch of money to put it out there, guess what? It ain't science. It ain't real, according to that thought, the way they approve things now. It's the only way you get things through. It has to follow the narrative or it has to have a bunch of money attached to it. Other than that, we're not ready for this. We don't have enough scientists to take this seriously. This is a conspiracy theorist, and scientists don't platform conspiracy theorists.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You dumb animal.
That's just how they operate. All you scientists operate.
I'm not a scientist.
Well, you know one. You're basically one.
You know several.
No, I don't. I don't know any. I don't associate with any of them. I don't associate with it.
James is going to be very upset with you.
Well, you know what, James? You know what I say to you? Please don't bomb my house. Please don't bomb me. That's all I got to say. Please don't bomb me, James.
You should just stop talking.
Never. You'll never silence me. You'll never silence Wilbur. When I'm in the shack, I have power. The power of my voice.
When you were
they can still hear me. Oh,
when you were going on that rant, you're like, power of the voice. I'm like, no, you don't. I have the button.
Power in the darkness. That's what's going on. Holy moly. That's what's going on nowadays.
What's that? Oh, no, turn this off.
Huh. The power of the voices seem to have vanished. How odd.
I refuse to mix that. I refuse to mix that in with, or to have that voice associated with this show. It's for a different one.
No. No, so I guess, what's your final opinion on the Shell Grotto? I think
it is an ancient structure.
Like, what do you mean by that? It's ancient by anybody's standard.
Okay, I think it was carved out in times. I almost want to say, I think it was carved out in the time when gosh dang. I think it was made in a time that doesn't reflect our current narrative. I think it was carved out a long time ago, more than just 1,000 years ago, maybe even more than 2,000 years ago. I think it was just an old structure that was rediscovered and decorated by modern times, like you said, possibly 1600s, but any time within that's past 1,000 years AD, I think it was discovered and decorated, and as like just a fun little room and project for somebody that enjoyed shells and enjoyed art and wanted to express their love of art through shells.
Hell, they may have just loved the shells.
Huh?
They may have just loved the shells.
Right, exactly.
So what do you think its purpose was when it was originally built?
That's a mystery. I don't know. It could have been a blood altar sacrifice. It could have just been a meeting room to have secret meetings, like from a secret society. It could have just been a root cellar. It could have been a wine cellar. It could have been an apartment for a minotaur that someone had chained up underground.
So, right, like, you remember Hillbilly Horror Stories, their live show that we went to?
Yes.
They talked about, like, during literally this time frame, how they were literally keeping people, like, as apartments inside.
Under bridges.
In bridges.
Yeah.
In bridges.
Inside
in the legs of bridges.
Yeah.
So, there's all kinds of, like, things in rock at this time. There's nothing above the human capabilities at this time. I think it's like 1,200 years old. I think the art itself, the shells are like 1600s. I think the hole itself is like 1,200 years ago. I think it was probably a food storage system. Just the way it's designed. It's very small. It's very, like, it's not designed to have a lot of people in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we were able to peel back the shells, we'd start seeing some more of the holes on the side. Some people even said it could have been a mausoleum.
Yeah, I could see that.
Which there was tons of them built at the time. And you know why they would have hidden a mausoleum?
Probably from persecution.
No, they were literally purposely destroying all grave sites at some points in Europe due to spacing.
Oh, wow.
They were going through and finding all grave sites and actually grinding human bones to make mortar at one time of England's expansion.
Another thing they made mortar out of.
Yeah, human bones. Like literally there was a time frame where they got rid of they were trying to get rid of all cemeteries, all of the everything that you buried a human body in because they wanted the space.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
so it was an all or nothing kind of deal. And I don't remember what years those were, but there was one where they literally went through, and I think it's like 70% of UK buildings have human mortar.
And then they took all the bones and the ones they didn't grind up and shoved them under the catacombs in France.
Well, they had them in walls. Like people literally, so when they crack a wall open and they find human bones, most of the time it's people trying to save their relatives.
Jeez, that's so scary.
Because they were destroying so many grave sites.
So they just put them in their walls, like literally build them into the house.
Mm-hmm.
That's awful times.
We wonder why Europe is so haunted.
Yeah, messed up. It is. It is
so
weird.
This could have been a mausoleum that was hidden on purpose, like they buried the door to. They're just like, because our family's down there, and there could still be human remains in those walls, but it's behind the art.
Let's peel back the layers here. Peel back the art.
So that's my opinion on it, that it was probably a root cellar or a wine cellar or a mix, because there's some very extravagant ones of the time frame.
Right.
I mean, some monster ones. So literally like that one I was talking about in the liquor store, it was a liquor store back in the day. Like literally that cellar was built on top of a little shack. The shack was built on top of this little cellar.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy would literally go down and you just say, what wine you want? And he'd walk and you'd watch him walk down there and grab it, walk back up with it.
And, just about, I don't know if this is a major city, but like, especially in UK.
Kent?
Yeah.
Kent's big.
It's a bit, okay. So I'd imagine every like major city, even in the US, is just like a city built on a city. Like an old city.
Oh, this is like that tenfold.
Right. So what's under your feet? I mean, you don't even know how.
Well, the catacombs, like you said yourself.
Goes.
And we knew what they were built for. We know about the catacombs. And it's just like we're still finding them.
Yeah.
We don't know how many, we know what they were for, though.
Do we?
Well, some of them.
Yeah.
The Black Plague. I mean, really just putting Black Plague.
Gosh.
Because they had so many bodies.
That's so scary.
So I don't think there's nothing extremely mystical or mysterious about this place. I really do. I really believe it was a root cellar that was decorated.
Okay. I think it was decorated, but I think the structure itself is a mystery, and I think it just leads to the curious mind wandering around the universe, asking questions and posing thoughts. That's what it's there for.
Okay.
I've been Wilbur.
I guess I've been Daniel. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
song is still going.
About halfway.
And you still haven't hit that button yet. So I think you might just want to hold your finger up and hover it right over that big red button over there. And perhaps put some pressure on it. Maybe just apply a little pressure to that button. Just hold it down for a little bit and you see it. That stops this recording because we're still going. In case you didn't know. The song's still playing. I don't know if anyone would ever really listen to this song. I mean, it's a groove. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can groove to it. I was just cruise. I guess, if you're cruising down the highway, car or truck or semi, you just have this bumping, you have the window down, breeze blowing on your arm. It's your little arm hairs flutter in the wind. It feels good. Maybe even poke your head out that window just a little bit. Feel that breeze run through your hair or around your ears. Maybe up your nostrils a little bit. In that highway, fresh air. I guess this wouldn't be too bad to just hear this playing, breathing that fresh air, feeling free, looking up at a cloud, wondering how'd you get there? Wondering what's your purpose? Where are you going?
Bye, guys.
Those are the things that you should